Welcome. It's a Friday Bits and Bobs. Happy to say for the first time in quite a while, Will Slattery and Ronan Mullen are with me, gents.
Hi, Joe.
Happy
Joe.
Friday.
You usually have the date. Do you know what the last?
No.
Usually has that to hand, like Rain Man.
I know. Usually it's because when I do that, the date comes up in Teams, but with us it's just called, there's a chat group that just said Will, Joe, Ronan.
Makes sense. I'd be worried if there wasn't such a group between the producers and the presenter.
We never use it. Like it's
symbiotic. We don't need it.
Yeah. Oh, we're tired. Indoor Sport Podcast at independent.ie is where you can email us. Vicar Street, we won't be tired that week, I can assure you. Tony Adams, Damien Delaney, Gary Breen, all together as we ramp up towards Premier League and just have good football chat. So Ticketmaster is where you go. Search Indo Sport. It's on August the 6th at Vicar Street. I was talking to a Tony Adams super fan at our live show during the week. She's read his book multiple times. Very excited to come to see Tony Adams. That's one person that'll be there at Vicar Street. So this weekend, Lions, Portrush, All-Ireland Hurling Final and Tour de France. Anything else you're having yourself, really, is kind of on the menu. What?
Will just looked at me because I said it to him, like half sincerely. Are you aware there's an undisputed? Not you. Or Will and the general
public.
The general sporting public aware that there's an undisputed heavyweight championship of the world at Wembley Stadium tomorrow.
Not really.
Isn't that mad though? Like this is not something that happens very often.
This is Dubois against
Usyk.
Well, I just assume,
all of the marbles.
Yeah, when you hear it on face value, you're like, God, how did I not know that? But then when you explain it, that it's a undisputed title fight in name only, technically, because the belt was given to Dubois because Usyk was stripped from it. So it's not like Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield and everything.
That's enough on that.
So you like Usyk and Fury had the actual undisputed world title fight twice, and that was for the first time since the turn of the century.
I'd have mentioned that.
So like, what do you mean?
I'd have mentioned Fury against Usyk.
No, I know. It's just that we've been, as a boxing fan, post the Lennox Lewis era, we were clamoring for, at some point can we have an absolute, who is the king of the heavyweight division? And then we had that with Usyk, beat Fury again, and then the IBF asked him to defend his title, and he didn't want to do it at the time of their asking, vacated that belt. But then it wasn't a nothing like box ticker. Dubois knocked out Anthony Joshua again in front of almost 100,000 people. So he's validated his credentials here as
everyone can knock out Anthony.
It's now getting top billing on a very busy sporting weekend. So you've actually done your duty to the sport.
No, we're done.
Cut his mic.
It's a quirk of circumstance. I just think it's funny.
Fine, I'll do it again there. And of course, the thing.
I wouldn't have said anything. Will was just
I looked at
smiling at me.
because he went Tour de France, and I was like,
Feel your smile.
I know, I felt I should add in Tour de France because there's a few emails in later on saying what was the lack of Tour de France coverage. So it was a real afterthought.
It's only Ireland's most successful sport, boxing. Don't worry about it.
I had only written in Lions, Portrush and the hurling, if I'm being honest. And then I was scrambling and I was like, oh, the Tour. Surely the Tour is still on. So, yeah, it's been a long week.
it's been busy.
I was sure Wednesday was Friday, and it was only just beginning really with Brawley, Spillane, Milan, Eddie Brennan. Part one of that, part two is already out. Part one needed some editing for various reasons, and that'll be out next week. This is how part one. Do you want to hear how part one ends? I just finished the edit there a moment ago. So we put up on the board, we'll take it out for next week because Cork Tip will have happened. But there was a guy who got a tattoo of Cork, All-Ireland Hurling Champions 2025. So we finish here. This is how part one finishes.
I was in the Flowing Tide one night, Joe, and this boy came over and he goes, Joe, he says, you don't know me. He says, but man, this is absolutely, he says, I'm in agony because of you. He says, I lost the bet. I says, what do you mean? He goes, and he pulled up on his belly. What do you think of that Joe Brawley tattoo?
Oh, Jesus.
It's absolutely true.
Wow.
It's fucking serious.
Sad.
He says, yeah, we were on a stag weekend, he said. I said, you silly Imagine.
What do you think of his Dublin accent, Will?
Decent, but he's portraying a certain kind of version there, and I'm not sure if the guy would be so thankful for that kind of impression of him.
I think Dublin people wouldn't. I think it's seen as an accent that anybody can just pull off, and it's just not true. I think Brawley's not bad.
Well, like any county, there's different parts of Dublin with different accents. So I think he gave a certain part of Dublin potentially with that accent. And his accents throughout the night were decent. He did a good.
That's why it came into my mind. Yeah.
He did a good Pat Spillane, which I think that's already out in the part we've played.
Okay.
That was like decent.
Oh yeah, no, he's good. I stole several of your Milky Bar mini eggs. It's on my mind. Sorry, at your desk. I'm
You
tired.
wouldn't mention the boxing, and this is making the cut.
Sorry.
The amount of times I brought home gourmet chocolates from Colombia, and he wouldn't even look at them.
I just feel guilty.
And then I left a couple of
They were nice.
leftover mini eggs from, I don't know why they were lying around.
Needed a sugar hit. They're not very nice, actually. I'm really prone to a Milky Bar. Those mini eggs are. There's something off
Unfortunately, you
with them.
can't give them back to me.
It was really eating away at you.
Yeah. I was just looking at you going, the 2 times he left his desk today, I was just like...
That's outrageous. That is scandalous.
I know.
Why didn't you just ask him?
He wasn't there when I really had a hankering.
I've offered you chocolate on a weekly basis. And you've never taken it.
But especially
tired.
turning down the Colombian ones, which were very nice.
Were they? Yeah.
Yeah. Chocolate covered almonds from Colombia.
Yeah, I don't know. Just did. Reached in. Probably my fingers touched several others as I reached.
Yeah,
Can I ask you a question about the live show, Joe, that we
Yeah.
did?
you're letting him off that easily.
I feel like it's had a good airing. Like, what else is there to say?
Talk to HR about it. will you?
Financial restitution.
This podcast needs a page 1 rewrite. I think we need to start again.
Yeah.
Paul, can you just hit the music?
Because-
Seriously, Paul, can you hit the music again?
And
No. we're gonna buckle up now. Okay.
the listener won't know, but we sat here for about 10 minutes beforehand, failing to start. We were just going through a lot. Think about the topics we actually did before we actually started, if this is what's made it in.
I have a meeting which is not happening anymore just because
Ronan has a crucial
how tardy
management
we were.
meeting, yeah.
It was a bad idea to do Portrush live show. In retrospect, it finished me. So that's it's producer's fault, I'd say. Scheduling.
My live show question, though, can I ask you? Or,
Yeah.
well, if we're coming to it later.
No. Sorry, we're moving on to real topics in a moment. Live show, yes. Brawley, Spillane, Milan, Eddie Brennan.
How did you find that as an experience, wrangling all them big personalities? Because it was interesting to see in the room.
It's what I thought it would be. It's uncontrollable, but like in a brilliant way. It's funny in 3D to experience the Brawley hand, the fend off, which is when he's talking and he senses you may come in. The hand goes up, and it does kind of stupefy you. It's a very effective technique. If anyone's about to interrupt you, just
Our producer
hand.
Shane has used it as one of the thumbnails on YouTube. So if anyone goes to the Indosport podcast, you'll see him doing it to Spillane, or maybe it's to you with Spillane in the background, and it's like literally picture perfect.
Using the force.
Yeah,
you can't blink, you can't move. But like what a mind when he's speaking. You know what I mean? He's in full flow. It's just very, very impressive. Spillane was great. Everybody who I spoke to afterwards. Now I'm not saying it's hundreds. It was a very exclusive event, but
very exclusive.
to a person, apropos of nothing, they would say Eddie Brennan was very good. A lot of love for Eddie Brennan's contributions, because obviously you had to counterpunch and pick your moments when Brawley and Spillane are holding court.
Eddie Brennan is a sensation. Like, he just never gives the ball away. It's just keeps everything he does is an effective contribution. Just he's
Dennis Irwin,
he's phenomenal.
yeah, really good, and Milan brilliant. See, the reason part 1 is out next week. It was a tougher edit because I had a whole plan, which was naive, obviously. And like the first question was, any All Ireland memories? And John Milan said yes and jumped in. And I thought, this is going to be amazing. Within 15 seconds of that, he said, but we need to talk about the greed in the GAA.
It was
Fucking greed.
It was like Jeopardy. If you heard this answer and had to guess what the question was, you would never ever guess.
And so the greed. He went to greed. GAA go. No one speaking up. It was like he had put a coin into Joe Brawley, and then that whole thing just Brawley said, "I'll take that one, John," and it was so that became a little bit everywhere. So that'll be next week, and that's kind of fun.
After 12 minutes, I texted my wife from the back row and said, "This isn't going well." Thankfully, it improved drastically.
No, it did. But a few edits, a few checks with the lawyers, and we'll get it out next week. But it was good. No, it was really good, and Portrush was amazing.
You had a busy few days.
Yeah, like privileged busy. So on Portrush, there were lots of emails in to Owen O'D and Mark O'Connor. They both said they really enjoyed the podcast. Thank you very much. As did our erstwhile colleague out there, Dave and Raddy. Enjoyed Tuesdays. Sean Hutchinson said, always love the pod. Just want to say how much enjoyed the pods from Portrush. They totally set the scene and have me excited like a little kid before I head up there on Friday. My favourite part was Joe's description of how good the pros are when you see them up close. And then he quoted me saying, "It's a joke." Thanks again. I won't be listening to any of your GAA pods this week. It's been a long second half for us Meath folk on Sunday. It was a long second half. All the best, Alan. Yeah, it is a joke. I hadn't been up in a while to a professional golf tournament. And they're just, I don't know. Look, I'm sure if I'd seen gymnasts up close or something, there's probably sports I'm not thinking of. But GAA, soccer, athletics, hurling, none of them kind of give me a Joe Bradley hand stupefying effect as golf in 3D up close. You just can't, when you first get there and you're about to watch one of them hit a driver for real, whatever your brain thinks they're going to do, it underestimates how good it's going to be. Underestimates how amazing it's going to be. And then when you start to know a little bit more about the game or you play the game, that increases tenfold. And then when you go and watch them hit chip shots off tight links lie, well, there's no grass, there's nothing under the ball, and these guys somehow slide their club under it like downhill lies. Ball pops up in slow motion. As I said, and as Alan quoted, it's a joke. It's a joke how good they are. And that's why I was saying in the podcast, people flock for a rotten spectator experience, because they understand the park and ride bus and the queues and the crowds and the rain and the 35,000 steps and everything being overpriced. It's, if you love your golf, it's like worth it to get that 10-minute period of standing by the pitching green, having a good view and going, this is otherworldly kind of level of skill.
It's funny you say that, because when you mentioned that exact line on the podcast, I was like, is that why people go? I was just curious, because the stuff you mentioned, it is difficult to see the round like you would have on television. So is that why you think the majority are going? Just
why I'd go.
Up close.
A lot of golf
experience.
Fans go.
Yeah.
Some people are just buzz junkies. They just want to say the buzz. I love the buzz. All the things I hate, really. Like the crowds, people, all that kind of stuff. Some people, I think, like the buzz. But I suspect a huge portion of people go because they play the game or watch it a lot, know how hard it is. And just to see them do it is amazing, you know.
How close are you to like the guys hitting on the range?
Very.
Like you're about 5 feet?
Well, with a media pass, you're 5 feet.
Yeah.
Crowds are a bit further back, but still close enough to be kind of get a real taste of it. It's the best place to watch a golf tournament, the driving range.
Am I right in saying that, I think Paul, who went up with you, our sound engineer, mentioned that, is there some sort of screen in the media center that tells you where the players are?
During practice, yeah.
Like, that's very handy.
It's very good.
So it's like they're tracking them, like, you know, it's like that.
Yeah, it'll have who's at the putting green, who's on what hole. Yeah.
That's a good service.
Good touch.
That's a very good touch.
Yeah.
And so Augusta just looks at that and says, nah, not doing that. Yeah. And then everybody talks about how charming that is. So what do people actually want at these things?
Yeah, you're allowed to run at the Open. I know you can't run at the Augusta.
I didn't test.
You know that.
When you're a power athlete, you could have made good time around the place.
No, short distances. I couldn't have jogged all the way to the practice green.
So given it's the weekend of the heavyweight championship of the world being defended, it'd be remiss not to talk about how impressive boxing is from Ringside, because if you consume a lot of fights...
that's a good point.
If you consume a lot of fights, and this is wrong, I feel bad about this sometimes, especially at the worst moments when something sad happens or bad happens. Tragic, I suppose, yeah. But if you watch it regularly, it's like any sport. You're looking at the tactics. Oh, he's dropping his shoulder there. Look at the footwork. But it's only when you're ringside you see like how thunderous the exchanges are. And I mentioned the aforementioned Usyk. Like, seen him a few times. Like, he's a phenom. He might go down as the best of all time. You know, I saw him at cruiserweight and heavyweight, and to see a man that big moving so deftly is just, it's as if his feet aren't on the floor. Meanwhile, he's putting manners on lads who are often 30-40% bigger than him. So that's like I've been lucky enough to see a few of those things up close.
I agree with you.
Ringside for
the power, yeah.
And then
I was at Rigondo Casey a long time ago.
Well, again, we're talking about all-time greats
That's a
here.
long time ago.
That's way back. But it was media. It was Ringside, and they're not power hitters.
No.
And yet I did have that experience of, oh my goodness, this is ferocious. The punches, the sound. I give you that.
You hear the punches whistle, like honestly, the movement of their arms is audible. Like it's just how fast it is, and then the impact. You're like, how does anyone stand up to one of these punches?
Maybe my point is undercut by the fact that in golf it has the advantage of you can get so close.
Yeah.
And so maybe if I was literally standing 3 feet away from Ronaldo free kick, I'd be like, okay, oh my God.
Yeah, but I remember you were chatting. Sorry, well, you were chatting after your visit to Old Trafford, and it's hard to overlook top level soccer as well. Again, you watch so much of it, you're desensitized how phenomenal these people are.
I know. I just think it's much easier to kick a football than it is to hit a golf ball. So much easier.
You think so?
It's not even close.
I don't know. You're using your feet.
It's not even close. Honestly.
I don't know.
Okay.
We agree to disagree.
Fine.
But like, so like a player, for example, that my life would go by and I wouldn't have thought of him again. And he was a good player, but Hakim Ziyech for Chelsea. I was in the press section of Chelsea match, and he was playing on the right wing. Every time he got the ball, it was just like, I can't believe what this man is doing. And he wasn't ever like in the team of the year or anything like that. But it just fundamentally changed like my perception of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that refresher.
I was just going to say, in terms of vantage points for games, and you're talking about the kind of gladiatorial nature of boxing, like for the Ireland All Blacks quarter final, like one of the best atmospheres ever, huge game. I was sitting like in the front row, and it was the worst viewing experience I've ever had. Front row in the 22, I could literally see nothing. A line out in front of my face was about all. If the ball moved anywhere other than directly in front of my eye line, I couldn't see anything. So and that was a Category 1 ticket apparently, and I was like I felt like I couldn't see the whole game. I had to like rewatch it in its entirety, even though for some reason when it was up close, it's not that impressive. You can't really see that much. You can see them like smashing into each other, but it's like bumper cars. So it's just funny, different vantage points. Like ringside boxing, unbelievable. Ringside rugby, which is similarly physical.
Yeah.
Impossible to see anything else.
Yeah. Somebody emailed in saying how thrilled they were for Harrington that a big crowd showed up at 6:35 a.m, which is true. I hadn't given that too much thought, and I actually woke up myself at that time to have a look at it, and I was as I was flicking on, I was like, God, I hope there's people there all of a sudden, because I remember Monty did it at Troon, which was his home course, and it wasn't packed. This was really busy for 6:35, and even Harrington talked about being a bit taken aback and being hit by emotion. It felt like they were there for me, giving me a clap. I expected the nerves, I just didn't expect that. So I had to adjust myself, which was nice, because he deserves that. Yeah, sorry?
One callback, and sorry to move back onto the football point, but very briefly, we talked about Troy Deeney on the show last Friday.
Yeah.
And then you sent me another clip. This lad's like a poet laureate.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
He's articulated what I just said so much better than I could.
Troy Deeney.
Yeah. He's like William Wordsworth or something, but he uses sounds to transmit his point. It's actually, we might put the clip in afterwards, but
he's talking about how there's a rhythm to top level football training when they're doing certain drills, and that I think it was Thomas Frank, was it?
Marcus Silva
was able to tell by the sound of the footballs being passed that something terrible was happening. It was like, whoa, what's going on? We'll stick it in here. Yeah, so it's another hat tip to Troy Deeney.
That no one understands, right? See the sound when these guys pass the ball.
Yeah, but
the ball goes boom, boom, boom. It's a rhythm. This is the thing that I learned in the Prem. So you do like passing drills, and you'd go like one touch back, but you want it here, dub dub, dub dub. That's what you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear touch on that foot, out quick, dub dub, dub dub. And I remember we had Marco Silva, and he did this passing drill, and it must have went dub dub dub. He went whoa. You weren't even watching. So, what the f*** was that?
That is sick, Sorry, I just want to, because I don't think I've heard it explained as in music.
One very last thing then on Portrush. Oh, actually two very quickly. So just apologies to everyone as Brian Harman takes control of this tournament as we speak.
This should be a great open. I really, and all due respect to him, I really, really hope we don't get a Brian Harman thing. I mean, this feels...
You say that on Tuesday, you get what you get. I just want to apologise.
Sorry for giving you so much work, Paul, but the sad trombone music probably needs to go in there afterwards.
It's terrible.
My cousin's there today, and he's been standing by the second green. He's seen like Rory, he's seen a lot of good players combine. He said the best shot of the day was Brian Harman flying a ball into the second.
As Ken Brown told us, the links brings in the shorter hitters, and Brian Harman's eyes light up, you know? Like watching Bryson DeChambeau year after year trying to overpower links is quite something for a smart man, so he tells us. It's an exercise in insanity, whereas Brian Harman looks at it and says, this I can play. This I can hit a little low slingshot or it'll run 50 yards. Rory, you carry a 300 all you want. I'm right beside you. Now let's go. So to his credit, it's amazing. But the man has no electricity. He's no X factor.
If he's a two-time Open champion, we have to give him some respect. I think you should drive up to Portrush on Sunday and interview him if that's the case.
One last one very quickly. We're not going to play the audio. I think most people have the gist of Scotty Scheffler's interview, which went semi-viral earlier in the week. Just one last email on that. It's not really a golf point, actually. It's more of a general sports person, or indeed just life point. But Robbie emailed in. Just as Joe wanted to ask the question about the Saudi regime to John Ram, it would have been great to see someone challenge the privilege bullshit statement that Scotty was coming out with at the Open. I get that his heart was in the right place, but what a load of nonsense. Anyone can be a good dad. Hell, I think I'm a decent dad. Not many can be the world number one in golf. Being a good dad, I slave away most days, working for the man, trying to make a few quid to hopefully give my family opportunities to do better things. I will never be able to provide my family with the life freedom his kids will have via the financial muscle influence that comes with being an all-time elite golfer. And the fact he said that if golf gets in the way, he'll stop tomorrow is just another privilege that comes with his place in sport. If my job gets in the way of me and my family, in the main, they'll just have to suck it up, at least until I can find something different. Although something different which is in the very same profession, as I would not have the financial clout to actually stop and start something different. As I, like most of the working world, couldn't live with the drop in my far more humble income. I get that Scotty's willing to walk away from millions. That is only because he already has so many already. And on the email goes, cheers, Robbie. Scotty generally celebrated for his press conference. Robbie making no bit of a point there.
Yeah, and it's funny because Scotty Scheffler kind of had two different strands to it. One of them, the part I picked up on more was, I suppose, the fleeting nature of victory and what that means. I kind of agree with that. The part about I'd quit tomorrow if it got in the way of my family life, I never really that wasn't what I took from it. I was more so fascinated by him saying, what's the point? Like, as in, I play all this golf and after 2 minutes I'm like, let's on to the next thing. Why do I do this? I grapple with that. What do I really get out of it? That's what I kind of looked at. I thought that emailer made a few fair points that, well, I wasn't thinking that when he said it. I actually thought he was coming across quite well and earnestly, but I think some of those points seem valid.
Like, you can definitely accuse Scotty's position as being a little bit self-involved and drenched in privilege. Like, it's the point of view of privilege that you could walk away. Like, none of us could. But I suppose, to be fair to him, Robbie, like, finances are relative. Like, there would be somebody in the third world listening to your email about how, like, if I didn't like my job, I'd have to switch to something in a similar sector, and they would be saying, like, well, who's this guy? You know what I mean? He's like, his working conditions versus mine. You can simply change job and you're moaning. There's kind of a hedonic treadmill quality to this for all of us, and Scotty's just in rarefied air. So look, he has adjusted to the millions. You know, they don't. I know in real terms, amazing, but like they don't make you happy on a daily basis. Like, we've all seen the studies. You win the lotto, you're paralyzed within 2 years. You're kind of back at your baseline happiness very quickly. You know, and to be fair to him, like, he wasn't asked a question about, like, are you happy in your life? The question was, you win a lot. Tell us about the winning, the satisfaction. I think ever since Rory and the Masters and like the kind of post-Masters slump he had, the journalists are often pulling at that thread at the moment. And so everything he said about winning was completely right about it. It lasts for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, and then it's on to the next thing. And the more you do it, the more that just kind of increases. That's perfectly understandable, I thought. Like, he did say numerous times, I love competing, I love the game of golf, but he said it's not a fulfilling venture. Like, you know, deep in your kind of soul, it doesn't fulfill you. And the other thing he said, which I would say is very true, is everyone, you included, it's so quickly just on to the next thing. Like, he said, if I win the Open, I'm going to come back. The next time I talk to you, one of you is going to ask me, how important is it that I win the FedEx? And after a while, it's just like, what's the point of any of this?
And he captured like Rory McIlroy's master struggle entirely. Like Rory couldn't celebrate that. He had to be like go on to the PGA Championship 4 weeks later, and it's so condensed. Like that, I think that like
His first cousin at that point, yeah.
like, and literally, to be fair, we said it as well. Like when we did our kind of, I think we did Masters mailbag. We were like, oh, calendar Grand Slam now is on. Oh, and we were all giddy. It's like, but for him, it was literally on to the next thing almost. He might have gotten one week. And then he was playing with Lowry 2 weeks later. Like it really was on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think Scotty captured that actually, that kind of that life of, especially in golf when the off season is fairly negligible, pretty well.
Yeah.
It's team sport, but it's different. Like it's kind of echoed many ways by Spillane and Eddie Brennan, who were the serial winners on stage the other day. That like they didn't seem to intimate that the number of titles they won like defines their self-perception or anything like that. Like even if you hone in on one thing, was it Noel Hickey and Brian Corcoran, that exchange where Noel Hickey wanted retribution for when Cork had beaten Kilkenny previously? I don't think that was about I want another medal. I think there was something more elemental about that or something. I don't know if these lads are necessarily driven by silverware and how this looks on another number on my Wikipedia credentials. Like I think that would apply to most sports people. I've very rarely heard any sports person say that their self-worth is represented by how many trophies they have. If they do, they'd never say it. I don't, not that I've ever encountered.
Yeah. Well, yes, Scotty also got the great kind of anticlimactic aspect of life, no matter what you kind of achieve. Like, it doesn't really last very long.
Is that true, though? Everyone's saying that. Everyone seems to be saying it from every which way.
I was sitting there. I thought it was quite interesting. I was a bit surprised the extent to which a lot of people said that's the most interesting, phenomenal press conference I've ever seen. Like Matthew Said, I saw saying, just saw a headline, the greatest press conference in history. Yeah. And I was kind of like...
Allen Iverson.
But everything, like, it's I would have thought, do most people not experience that a billion different ways all the time? Whatever you achieve, very quickly, it's like a little bit anticlimactic, or if not, very quickly fades into that hedonic treadmill. Oh, this is just my new baseline. You know?
No, well, maybe I experience it. When something good happens to me, I enjoy it. And I'm very happy. Like, and if something good happened, no, I haven't won anything. Like, but if I ever did, I think I'd like it. I don't know. Like the sense of it. No, you're right, Ronan. Like none of the guys were like, Joe Brolly said like, oh, when I won my All Ireland, is this it? I'm like, God, is no one like, this is the best thing ever? I've won the All Ireland, but no one seemed to articulate it like that.
It could be the quiet majority, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think. As a fan, like looking down when your team wins something, you're like, geez, it'd be unbelievable to be in the middle of that. And I think most people probably just do. Like, I suppose if you're a high performer in that 0.1%, to use that phrase again, it's all relative. Like, we won this one, but it wasn't quite as good as the one we won previously. It's like, oh, you think that one was good? You should see that one. I think, yeah.
I remember Conor Deegan telling me, when he won one with Down. Like, yeah, for 2 minutes, amazing. Like, you see another other friend, and you'd run 20 yards to each other and hug, and then someone else, and then after 4 or 5 minutes, it all just quietened down a bit, and he definitely was like,
Yeah, I need to track someone down who's like, no, it was unbelievable. It's just as good as you think it was. Winning the All Ireland is like, yeah, it defines me as a person.
Yeah, defines me as a person
and
in a good way.
That's great.
In a good way.
I think it should. Like, you can engage with self-worth wherever you find it. I think that's a great thing. Like, especially if you devote so much time to it and the end goal is this. Like, if you achieve that goal, self-fulfillment should be, that should be automatic.
Yeah, we had Rich Beam as well, so the same thing pretty much. It's funny, like, I feel like we've had a lot of people recently saying, oh, I won and it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Or...
Yeah, I think, don't get them wrong, it's satisfying, it's a rush. And the mistake you might make is thinking this is going to make me a much happier person, but very quickly you're just back to, oh, I'm still exactly the same person. If my relationships are not good, my life isn't good. If there are parts of my life which were bad before, they're still bad. Like, you're still just stuck with yourself, and you could make the mistake of thinking this is going to transform everything somehow. And I'd say it's a thuddering realization, oh God, it's not going to change a damn thing really. And that's why Scotty's saying this isn't fulfilling venture, like family, that's real. So I don't think they're saying it's like not enjoyable, but it it's just not this kind of fix-all and my life's amazing and therefore, because he was asked, winning must be great. He was like, no, it's good, but it's not what you're making it out to be. It's that line I said to Matt Damon, or to... that line I said to Rich Beam, almost as much of a flex, that Matt Damon said, that he was...
Oh yeah, and Rich loved that.
He was really happy he won the Oscar when he was so young, and he didn't spend 40 years trying to win one only to win it and realise it's not all that. I mean, that's what he's getting at.
Because it's funny, because we were talking about Daniel Day-Lewis earlier, who you think is the most guy removed from this sort of thing. But when he won his third Oscar, the first actor ever to win 3 Best Actors, he looked absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
And he was actually much more effusive and kind of gregarious than you'd ever see him.
Yeah.
And he looked properly chuffed. And it's funny because you'd think he might be, of all people, he might not even attend because he'd be so above it. But yeah, it's a funny one. Obviously, people talk about the process, not about the end goal. I'm like, God, but it's the end goal, not like...
Maybe if you have every other aspect of your life in a good place, then you can... It's like a lovely little cherry on top and you can enjoy it, I think it's the people who make the mistake of obsessing over winning that All-Ireland and all my life's going into this, and maybe they sacrifice other aspects of their life. I think sometimes if they get over the line, they can think, what the fuck was I doing?
But this is hypothetical, but say if Mayo against Tyrone in 21, when it was, say, the 6th All-Ireland final for a lot of those guys, if they had won that game, do you think they would have been feeling like Joe Bradley, or would they have been feeling like this is the greatest moment in the history of our lives, all the Mayo people? I feel like that would have been surely one of the... It didn't happen, obviously, but I'm just trying to see, is there one that would definitely be ticking all the boxes for, isn't this great?
I'd say it's a real individual, each to their own thing, Yeah, it's a good question, but I'd say somewhat it would have been like my life's work complete, and others might have thought, Jesus... I'm putting out the bins on a Thursday,
It makes success. Why bother chasing any success?
Well, that's a very it's Friday. Let's not get too into. But it's a very valid question. Why would you bother chasing a lot of stuff? Honestly, you're running around your hair's on fire, busy. What is the point? So that's a legitimate question. That's one we should all be asking ourselves. Why are you chasing any of that stuff? Really? Because it's not gonna do much for you very quickly. You'll just be quick. And if you're ambitious as well, you just box it away on what's the next thing? What's the next thing? You know what I mean? I've done that. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Lads win 4 in a row. Can they do 5 in a row? They're entitled to be like, fucking hell, what is the point of this?
Yeah. Eddie Brennan did say it was addictive. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's a healthy kind of way maybe to have it. Ish.
Yeah. Addiction.
Yeah, maybe
addiction.
But he yeah.
I don't know, but the way
the way he said it sort of made more sense
100%.
than thinking I'm fulfilled. He just I just want to win. I love winning.
It's interesting that Matt Damon said that, because Ben Affleck has the exact opposite stance.
Does he?
Well, that Academy Award was one of the, in terms of framing his career, he and Damon went total opposite directions after that. Somewhat down to movie choices, but they were pigeonholed at an early point. But he did this interview with Howard Stern a few years ago, which he just said, which is common on that show, a bewitching level of openness and transparency with his answers. So much so that after the first 2 or 3 answers, I was like, I don't remember the last time I heard someone being dishonest. And he was talking about Argo, where everybody was nominated except him. And it won Best Picture, and he wasn't even nominated. And that goes right back to, we made a decision on this lad after Good Will Hunting and what he became, and heartthrob in the late 90s, and then the movies he did subsequently, and you're never getting out of that box, mate. Well, and so that, that Oscar defined him in a different way.
This is the cruelty of it. This is our lot as human beings, and Scotty would be the same. He did talk as well about raging when he loses. That they all say, and these are cliches as well. It's a fear of losing more than a joy of winning. So he talks about why do I come here and I have to win the Open. I just feel I have to win it, and I'm raging when I don't. But then when I do win it, it's 2 minutes euphoria, and then it's okay, on to the next thing. So we're doubly screwed in that the winning isn't so all complete and wonderful, and yet the losing really does seem to rankle, or the disappointments rankle. So I guarantee you, if Affleck had won the Best Director, let alone being nominated.
But how absurd is that now?
Yeah, it's bad. But then he would have been happy. But then 3 days later, he put it this way, 10 years later, however long it was, he wouldn't have been on the Howard Stern show saying, I just still can't believe I won it. It's great. Yeah. He wouldn't have been. So you're destined for a life of borderline unhappiness. It's the point.
Gone Baby Gone is his finest work.
The town is epic.
Really good. Some people like Gone Girl better, but I'd go Gone Baby Gone.
The thing about Gone Girl I can't get over is that he was bulking up for Batman at the time, so he's just like walking around the house like obscenely jacked. It's like he definitely killed his wife. Look at the size of him.
Oh dear. Hey guys, maybe some cycling, please. Pretty please. Thanks, Shane. This is a slight issue for us in that we only do 7-8 episodes a week. Kieran Lennon was on last Friday talking cycling on Bits and Bobs, but you know, we will have the same email from League of Ireland clubs in Europe. We didn't do anything on them this week. Cycling, haven't done it this week. Ben Healy news. We did not review Wimbledon. You know, it's kind of big enough Sunday, interesting Sunday. No long form interviews really. The Euros, like England, Sweden last night, kind of gripped football fans. Boxing allegedly not getting enough of a shake. So it's just hard to get to everything, I'm afraid.
This week of all weeks, like
It's tricky.
we had a full dance card.
Kevin Fox did say, though, I love the show, etc., etc. I also love cycling. I'm not in any way naive about what I'm watching. I believe a clean race looks a lot different to what we see on tour. However, both Wimbledon winners have doped. Neither Tour de France favourite has, he puts in brackets, been proved to yet. But the way both sports are discussed on your podcast and elsewhere is very different. A cycling discussion on the podcast is deemed only credible if a few doping questions are asked. I'm glad you at least discussed the race on its merits as well last week. I understand why it has to be this way. Why is the same rule not applied to other sports? Cycling at least acknowledges its past while forever selling you the bullshit of its clean present. Tennis and other sports bury their heads in the sand and say, look over there. I take the point to a point. I mean, we did a big piece with Ross Tucker on the doping, like it was absolutely covered, the tennis doping, that is. The cycling thing, yeah, it is treated, I guess you could say worse. It's in the dock. But the problem is the cycling thing is just, it is worse. You know, like the last 20, 30, 40 years have been a joke, to use the golfing thing again. It's like a joke. And now the Team Sky thing, which was the new era, with each passing year, it looks tawdrier. I don't know if you read the Sunday Independent just this week. Like, you know, shocking stuff really about Team Sky. And it doesn't even seem to have generated much reaction. So there's such a stench of it that I always feel obliged when I'm talking about cycling to throw in those obligatory questions, because it has not earned even the scintilla of a right yet to just be talked about on its merits. Like the Team Sky thing is current. It's Ineos. It's the same people, you know. So the obligatory questions continue. I'm not saying tennis is clean, but no sport is clean. But I just think cycling is in the dock more so than other sports, rightly or wrongly. It just is. So it is, unfortunately.
And after Wimbledon, I do feel like that was pointed out a fair bit, like on Monday.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there was conversations had that didn't include that both champions had recently had issues in that regard.
And it was discussed even in commentary. I heard someone say, "Oh, they don't even talk about it in commentary." They do. They absolutely do. Like I was watching a third or fourth round Sinner match, and John McEnroe and the commentator were talking about it at length. Now it would have annoyed some people because John McEnroe was saying this Sinner thing isn't much ado about nothing. Like this is way OTT. John like he would have disagreed when you say they both doped. He would not have said doping is the correct adjective. They failed tests, but to say they're dopers and they doped routinely or were doping, he would say is wrong. So, rightly or wrongly, they didn't pretend it never happened on the coverage. But look, we read Conor Nyland's book. He goes through everybody. Fifth person he practiced with is like, oh yeah, that guy was pinged for drugs. So tennis absolutely has it for sure. You almost need just a ticker along these sports as we're talking on the screen saying we're obviously very skeptical about all this, but we just still have to talk about it is the problem.
In the NFL, for example, it's crazy. Like they'll issue a press release that X is suspended for 6 weeks, and then it's like the third paragraph before they specify why. Yeah. Like if that was a Premier League player for something, it would be the lead story on Sky News. If on any level, for
sort of the segue into the enhanced games NFL, really, isn't it?
To some extent, yeah.
You get like a 6-match ban for taking stuff that if you took in other sports, you'd be banned for 2 years.
Yeah. These are big.
It's bizarre.
They're not subject to WADA, obviously.
No, and they're big name. I'm not talking about the also rans, big names who are on TV now still, and it wouldn't be addressed.
Does that affect your enjoyment of it in any great way?
The knowledge that a lot of them are likely taking stuff.
Yeah. Like Kieran Lennon last week was saying, I love cycling. I'll always love cycling. I understand that what I'm seeing is very questionable at the moment. obviously doesn't affect just the sheer enjoyment of watching them go up.
I would like them to take a harder line on bans and stuff. That's probably my biggest issue with it. And just generally, I don't like their protocol around discipline. I think there's no consistency with it, and that is, like, I love the sport, I love watching it, but that I've never got my head around that really.
Yeah, they have an extremely bizarre and quite jarring, I suppose, soft touch when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs in the NFL. I actually say most people, if you're not a super big NFL fan, aren't even aware of it. That the fact that you can test positive for something that's in another sport would be a 2-year ban and only miss half a season.
Yeah. There was an email in, last one. Hey folks, I've listened to every bit of the British and Irish Lions content, etc.
Thought that was going somewhere else.
No. Joe Schmidt is essentially Hannibal from the A-Team. It's all on him to come up with a ridiculous scheme to save the day. There's like 2 wallabies I've heard mentioned frequently, and that's it. It's not even the full foursome that Hannibal had at his disposal. So he says, I hope Ian Madigan is right. Ian laid out a plan and a very...
a blueprint.
But like a likely one. Not even a Hannibal from the A-Team kind of wild plan. Like a
Madcap.
Madcap is the word. He thought a very viable one where Schmidt could pull something out of the bag here.
More Hannibal from Silence of the Lambs, kind of methodical.
But he said, unfortunately, I don't think it's even going to be close across the 3 tests. Lots of people will have seen test 1, so we're not going to dwell on that. But yeah, I mean, there is a fair degree of in Schmidt we trust. I wondered on Joe Schmidt, even though he would never say it, I'd love to know, he reads everything, always did, as Irish coach, like there were rumours of like dossiers and what every journalist was saying, all this kind of stuff. So he's not going to change the habit of a lifetime, fully aware of what all the Irish players have said about their time with him. And there are 2 broad areas where they've really been honest / attacked him. One is just the intensity of the camp and how unenjoyable it was and restrictive. And not just, we didn't have a good time and that's a pity in and of itself. Like, we couldn't express ourselves. We could have been even better players maybe if we'd been more relaxed. It's kind of, so it was counterproductive. Well, not just unenjoyable, it had a counterproductive effect. That, and the game plan was so pared back. And, even in Sexton's book, he talked about a young player coming up to him in camp in 19 saying, are we going to play any rugby? And so, the way they talk about the Farrell game plan and, how enjoyable it is, it does amount to a fairly searing takedown of Schmidt. And he's never really talked about it in the subsequent years. But I wonder, like, when he's cooking up that New Zealand plan in the World Cup quarter-final, or even now, this weekend and the next couple of tests, I wonder, is there a part of him that wants to be like, I am going to remind you boys what a bloody good coach I am. Because the way you've gone on about me since is a shocker.
Well, the quarter-final is a good one because
he got so much satisfaction out of it.
Yeah, I reckon.
I'd say,
visibly.
But more than just if
yeah,
it's the revenge.
Yeah. Imagine how sweet that was.
Yeah,
imagine how sweet that was.
That's what I do imagine. But
how sweet that was for him.
No, human nature. Like, he has been attacked, and to be fair, that's not to say that the players' criticisms were invalid. Like, there was I think a lot of people. If Johnny Sexton is saying it, and he was like Joe Schmidt's lieutenant, that we should have played different styles of rugby, I think it's fair to say that it's a valid criticism for sure. But I've no doubt Joe Schmidt would probably have like dossiers of stats being like, no, Johnny's completely wrong. Like, I know what's best. For me, I've always found it more interesting what the players have said about the environment. Because I think we could all have watched Ireland towards the end and said, look, they're not, the rugby they're playing at this stage has been found out. But like, Andrew Porter's comments on the environment. I remember going to a live show, Dan Sheehan was talking, and he obviously didn't play under Schmidt. And he was like, the lads used to be shitting themselves, they were telling me when they were going into camp. Like, and he kind of said it really flippantly and everyone laughed. Like, but it really paints a picture of his man management that, like, I'm sure he might say, look, I brought you from here and I took you there and you guys should be a bit more grateful for that.
Do you think he feels betrayed and disappointed that they've all gone public with it to this extent? It's now just an accepted thing you say.
Yeah.
I think he'd
have to.
I think he would be very.
He'd have to.
He's never said a bad word about them subsequent.
I don't think he would either.
No. I think he thinks, remind me how many times you'd beaten the All Blacks before I arrived.
Yeah.
Remind me how often you were world number 1. Remind me how many Grand Slams you had. Remind me. I'd say he feels so betrayed.
Like, he won the double with Leinster, back-to-back Six Nations, a Grand Slam, first ever win in South Africa, first ever win over the All Blacks. Like,
because these Irish players are
series win in Australia,
they'll keep stum about most things.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like, they're like all Joe Brollies. You can't shut them up on anything, and Schmidt's just caught in, as one of many. It's like they won't talk about most things, but it seems like Schmidt, yeah, I'll get.
But then to that point, that might show. Like Andrew Porter was talking about, kind of being real nervous going into camp. Like it shows maybe how strongly they did feel though that there was maybe a chilling atmosphere in the camp.
Yeah.
That they would open up about that as well. It's not necessarily that they want to have a cut off a guy that they're not grateful for the success. Maybe it just more shows God like this. Oh, we can have success and also have a bit of a lighter mood, and that's a good discovery I think for them to make in Irish rugby, because Joe Schmidt brought it to a level technically that Irish rugby had never experienced. But now we're seeing that can still be married with a more open, kind of less restrictive, training environment. So that's probably a good thing. But I can see why Schmidt would be like, "Would you guys wind your neck in?" Like,
Yeah.
like. Back-to-back Champions Cups. And it's funny. You know what? It's funny. You actually only really hear it from the Irish players who played under him. The guys who only played with Leinster in the back-to-backs, I'm just thinking this out loud. The guys who didn't kind of play for Ireland or didn't play a huge amount under him for Ireland don't really say that much about his environment. They just really talk about what he brought technically. They say he was ruthless, but they don't say, "Oh, we're going to Leinster every day was we couldn't do this or we couldn't do that." That's interesting. That seems to be maybe he got a little more intense when it went up to international. Or
I think Luke has argued that.
Yeah,
because he obviously experienced both. I mentioned yesterday in the pod that Shane Horgan routinely says when this chat happens, I don't recognise the Joe they're talking about. So I think the pressure of the national job
and training camp. The lads were going home at the end of every day, which is significant.
Yeah, they don't have Schmidt with the card key for the room going, you drop this, you drop balls. Yeah. Maybe
that's different. Like leaving, punching out at the end. Like imagine if you had to live with your boss for 6 weeks and he's really intense. Like that's a Six Nations camp. Like if your boss is a real demanding guy or woman who like is constantly on you about standards, and you kind of see them at breakfast, see them at lunch, see them at dinner, repeat for 6 weeks. Like that's probably different animal to just like leaving at the end of the day.
Yeah.
A commonly told story from a few different players has been when they go to him with a suggestion and he makes like a mockery of them. I heard that from a few people where he almost takes the question and just turns it as in, I'm not taking that on board whatsoever. I think the one thing I hate in like a leadership role is a total lack of concession. Like you need a figurehead to make a decision, but the team needs to feel like they're contributing to the process. Like if he's just not taking anything they're saying on board or what they're doing in training on board, I can see that.
Look,
that's more of a
you got boxing on the headline.
That's
all right?
more of a
you did it.
That's more of a general rule. I don't know what you're getting at there.
No, I agree. So
but the success was unprecedented. So he could easily argue that. Look what it delivered. Look what my style.
That's what I'd like to. What do you think? Is there any validation is there any validity in the fact that Ireland could have achieved the same amount of stuff with more style points? He didn't have this unbelievable. In fact, the generational group of players had just gone over the cliff, really.
Yeah, because when he was a Leinster coach, they played unbelievable rugby. That was always the kind of the funny thing when he transitioned to Ireland, that there seemed to be kind of a thought on his part that this is the best way to win with the players I have, which just might have been true, obviously, the success. But when he was with Leinster, they were like the best passing team. That was his first thing he wanted to do. The rugby they played to win those Champions Cups was really, really good. At that point, the best rugby the Champions Cup I'd ever seen.
But he had better players at that level.
Yeah. And Test rugby is a far more basics, pressure game, catch, kick it kind of environment as well.
But the quality of that squad relative to the competition at a world international level was less than
for sure. Yeah,
the quality. Like I'm not going to make any arguments with Leinster versus Ireland. That's obviously an argument that's been had this year. But he had to play Jared Payne at centre. Robbie Henshaw was a baby at international level. O'Driscoll had just left. He was lucky that Johnny Sexton inherited the 10 jersey, but it wasn't as if he had this swashbuckling group that had been achieving great things and he came in and tore up the script. Like he probably and this is to both of your points, I think he would stand over his approach.
Big time.
Yeah, I guess the issue is towards the back end of his tenure when Leinster were winning and playing really good rugby. That was when the point came where people were like, okay, it was fair enough when the provinces were going badly and you were playing the style and Ireland were winning. Now Ireland are losing, the provinces are playing, or Leinster are playing great.
Do you not think?
I would just say back end though, it's worth just emphasising we're talking a 10-year tenure. And we're talking about 6 bad ones at the end. Like if he was like, you're in the job for another 5 years, he would have sorted that out. It's just the timing was just awful, and it's left such a bad aftertaste. But like we're talking England in Dublin 2019, and then World Cup happens, and it's hard to just suddenly completely reinvent a game plan. So they said, let's try and do it better. Like it was really, it's a small percentage of the total time in charge.
And yet when people not when people ask me, but when I think of the Joe Schmidt tenure, I often just go to 2019 first, because it was such a brutal ending, because they were at the absolute apex just prior to that. So they had never been higher in 2018, and then like the plummet and fall across that year.
When people were doing a Christmas review of 2018, the word wasn't this Irish team need to change and quick.
Well, I remember that 2018. I think the road might have gone on off the ball, and there was a big thing about have Ireland peaked too soon. That could have been any World Cup cycle. But I remember it could have even been with you, and I remember listening to it, and then like obviously
it was a thing. It was a concern, and the age profile, and like Andy Dunn was very big on there's too many rucks, and this is very this is a bit predictable. But like it's very it's hard to peak the perfect moment. You're just trying to win matches.
Andy Dunn is like the David McWilliams of that World Cup cycle.
He
called it like
a big bubble.
18 months in advance.
This bubble's going to pop.
Unbelievable.
Any other business as we bring this week to a close?
that was an impressive evergreen rugby conversation, considering the Lions are playing tomorrow.
Yeah. Will's watch along is tomorrow.
Yes, the watch along. One last
it.
thing.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think that's it.
Yeah.
What a week. And much like Scotty Scheffler, fellas, we have to start from scratch next week all over again.
Well, our week isn't over. Billable hours, Joe. The amount of sport we're going to be having watched this week to prepare for next week.
I know.
So like we won't even see our families.
That's like
it's true.
that was one thought. I thought it was maybe too self-indulgent to bring up, but like anytime I'm like telling my friends about how busy I am, they're like, "You literally just watch sport and go home." So yeah. I can see Scotty's point there.
We'll do hurling for sure on Monday, and then depending on who wins in Portrush, or depending what happens in the lines, we'll figure out Monday